Another home match for the Union against another playoff hopeful, but this time it wasn't exactly what the club was looking for as we break down the team's 1-1 draw with Atlanta United on Saturday night. Before we dive into the last road trip of the season against one of MLS's best sides. All that and more as Union Insider starts right now.
Takes the strike on, and it's off the inside of the post.
Ariel, who scores off the header from the set piece, flipped it in off the back post.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Union Insider presented by Independence Blue Cross. I'm your host, Marisa, and I'm joined, as always, by two of our favorite Union players. I won't list them in order, but Sheanon Williams and Sebastian Letou. So just a few weeks ago, guys, we stood right here and talked about how the Union had two straight home matchups against teams neck and neck with them in the playoffs. The first one was against DC United, and if you watched last week's show, of course you did, you knew the Union had dominated that game to the tune of a 4-0 victory. The second of those games was against Atlanta United this past Saturday, and while the Union got a result, it wasn't exactly the one they were hoping for. Here's how it all went down at Subaru Park. The Union were on the front foot to start this one. In the 8th minute, Jack McGlynn puts this ball on goal, and Atlanta Brad Guzan has to make the dive and make the save to keep the Union out of net. Then in the 18th minute, after the ball bounces around, it finds a leaping Jack Elliott who heads it towards Guzan, and he punches it out. But then it finds the foot of Nate Harriel, who puts one on net, and it goes in for goal. But wait, it's called back for offside, so no goal for the Union. 38th minute now with Atlanta on the attack. Pedro Amador puts in a cross that finds Daniel Rios in the box, but he can't quite put it home. The score will remain scoreless into the halftime. In the 61st minute now, Kai Wagner on the ball on the left side. He puts it on the ground for a streaking Nate Harriel, who one-times it and this time finds the back of the net for real. A great strike to beat Guzan, and the Union take the 1-0 lead. But in the 72nd minute now, after some passing in the final third, the ball finds Brooks Lennon running towards the end line. He chips it across the box to Saba Lojaitzi, who burrs it home past Andre Blake, and the game is once again tied. Final moments of stoppage time, Quinn Sullivan lofts in a ball from the left side to Alejandro Bedoya, who flicks it with his head into the box. It eventually finds Daniel Gazdag, but his one-time shot is kick-saved by Guzan, and the ensuing shot by Glesnes from distance goes high. And with that, the Union end up drawing with Atlanta United in a 1-1 highly contested match at Subaru Park. So fellas, after this match, Jim Curtin said at this stage of the season, no one remembers the amount of chances that you create. They only care if you got 3 points. And that was very true in what we saw Saturday night. What is happening with this team in terms of creating chances but not finishing them?
I mean, they finished them. We saw against DC, 4-0. There was a game where they put a lot of, goal in the back of the net. They won 5-1 against New York City FC. So maybe they put too many goals in the back of the net during those two games. But you can see that Atlanta United came in Subaru Park with a very big game plan to be tight, defensively. They don't give a lot of space between their line, and it was hard for the Union to break down their defense.
So what can the Union do differently when teams start to play a similar way that Atlanta did?
Yeah, I think if they make it into playoffs, they'll see a lot of that kind of sitting back, trying to soak up pressure and then hit them on the counter. They have to do a better job of playing at a higher tempo, looking to combine through the middle a little bit more, and that way you pull teams apart. I think they got too comfortable with just sending balls into the box. We saw Atlanta do such a good job of coming out to get crosses if it was Brad Guzan or the two center backs doing a good job to clear the ball. So they have to find different ways to break teams down, especially when they sit back like that.
So with Atlanta, they equalized right after Curtin made 2 substitutions in the midfield. How do you think those substitutions maybe led to a breakdown, or do you think it played a role?
I don't think so. I think it just, Atlanta being down 1-0, put a little bit more, number forward. They were here, to get a result. I think they were very happy to get the tie 1-1, so they push. They get the equalizer with, the defense a bit falling asleep, on the cross. You see, Seba being by himself, Ariel not really marking anybody, but it's kind of for the Union, I think what I'm going to join Sheanon, it's when we don't have the solution, we always put the ball wide, kind of hope for the best, for some crosses, but we should combine a little bit more and having our front three, getting the ball into the middle, those vertical paths. We talked about it, during a few shows before when the Union was struggling offensively. It's when you find the ball into the middle and have, Ura, Baribo, and Gazdag playing off each other. It's when we are at our best. But Atlanta did a very good job being compact, having two number 6 in front of their defense, and kind of limited the ball we were able to play Ura and Baribo. So that's why the Union were kind of struggling a bit to find a solution. And at the end, with Atlanta and their counterattack, they were able to come back and get a 1-1.
So Sheanon, last week we broke down Atlanta and said why they would be a tough task for the Union. What about how this game played out surprised you at all about the result?
Yeah, obviously they're a team in transition. They are going in the opposite way it's looked like going into the game, and they came in and they really fought for their own playoff hopes. They're still in that playoff hunt, and they didn't give the Union an easy game and put themselves out of a playoff race. So I thought they, like Seba talked about, came in with a really good game plan. And then we're just dedicated to making sure that they got some kind of result on the road in a tough environment. I thought that as the game went on, they started to feel more comfortable. I feel like around the 30th minute, they even started to dictate the game, which you don't want to see, especially when you're at home. So, again, they came in desperate, and it showed.
Yeah, so we had said this week in and week out about the Union. They still control their destiny in the playoffs, but it's very, very tight. That margin of error at the bottom of the table is very, very slim. So what are some of the positives from this game that they can push through the Union and use going forward in these final couple matches?
I mean, the fact that they're still, let's say, undefeated now since a couple of games. They play a team like Atlanta, who I think it was a 6-point game, but they were able to not lose it, knowing that they did the job against DC United and New York City FC, the week before. So now, like you say, they have their, future in their hands. We are, not going to know what's going to happen, in this show on Wednesday against Orlando, but I'm sure it's going to come to the wire and probably to the last game against Cincinnati. So if they can, be on the road and get 1, maybe 3 points, for those 2 games, and then against Cincinnati, we'll see what they need to do to maybe get a home advantage, for the 8-9 place, or maybe 7, depending, of course, of what Charlotte is doing during their last games.
Well, the Union only scored once in this one, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Right now, as part of Key Play of the Week presented by Suru, Sheanon is over at the video board to go over Nate Harriel's goal that gave the Union the 1-0 lead in the second half.
Our Key Play of the Week comes from right back Nate Harriel, and that opening goal against Atlanta. Does a really good job to get himself in a good spot, and then takes a big moment and takes a chance to put his team up. We see the ball in from Kai Wagner, just a ball on the ground, and then Nate just does a really good job just to put this on frame. Usually when you have a shot with the inside of the boot, it starts to rise on you. Really good technique to keep it low. You can see the defenders drop in here, creating this pocket of space up top for Nate Harriel. As a right back, it's a position that I played myself. He just takes a chance. He really knows what the situation is and what they need in this game. You find it a left back passing to a right back, and then again, just a really good shot in on goal. I think he does an exceptional job finding good areas in and around the box to score goals, and that was an example of it.
We're ready to take a break on Union Insider, but first, here's our Union trivia question presented by United Concordia. The Union's first goal in Orlando came on May 25th, 2016 in a 2-2 draw. Who scored that goal? Find out the answer later in the show. Welcome back to Union Insider, presented by Independence Blue Cross. While the bulk of the rest of the show will be spent talking about the Union's upcoming match against Columbus Crew, they also had another game before this one, an away tilt with Orlando City SC on Wednesday night. Since we record this show on Tuesday morning, we don't know what happened in studio, but luckily for you, Sage Hurley is here to take us through what happened on Wednesday night and fill in the gaps on this week's Union Roundup presented by Green Mountain Energy.
I'm Sage Hurley here in Florida, where the Philadelphia Union fell 2-1 to Orlando City on the road in a midweek matchup. While it wasn't the result they were looking for, playoffs are still in reach and there are 2 games left on the regular season schedule. Here's how it all went down in Florida. The first half was a slow one that finished scoreless for both sides, but when Philadelphia Union and Orlando City emerged from the locker room for the second 45, action picked up quickly as the hosts scored a pair of goals in a 7-minute span. Down 2-0 on a humid night, the Philadelphia Union did not back down. Instead, Quinn Sullivan got one on the board for his team by way of a pass from Daniel Gazdag. Sullivan stepped through his teammate's pass into the box, his shot hitting the crossbar before going in. From there, it was a 2-1 game, and despite a late push featuring a handful of subs, the scoreline held through the final whistle, and Orlando City secured all 3 points. With the result, Philadelphia Union now sits at 10th place in the Eastern Conference standings. That means they're just 1 spot shy of the playoff line.
We are where we are because of us, and we have to kind of try to fix it. 2 games left, and the simple question is, how much do we want to be in the playoffs? Whether we deserve it or not at this stage, you guys can debate, and you could probably say none of the teams probably at 8 and below right now, or 9 and below, deserve any sniff of the playoffs, but our reality is we still control our own destiny. So I hate where we are. I'm not happy with where we are, but we still have an opportunity to get in, and from there anything can happen.
Next up, the team will fly from Florida to Ohio for the final road game of the regular season against Columbus Crew. That's all for this edition of Union Roundup. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sage. And with that one behind us, now let's turn our attention to Saturday's match against Columbus Crew FC. So we need these guys to break it down for us, and we all know what that means. Keys to the game, presented by Subaru. We were all supposed to say it together. Keys to the game, presented by Subaru. All right, Seba, what's your key?
My key for this game, I mean, we all know Columbus. We played them already a few times this season, and we know offensively how good they are and how the way they play. They love to keep possession. They love to move one team to one side to the other and be able, to get the advantage, with their fullback who really push forward and really bring a lot offensively for them. So for me, it's can we have a good balance? If we decide, to play with a diamond midfielder, we always know that we need a good job. If it's, Jack Maglin, if it's Bedoya, if it's Sullivan, depending on who this is going to start on a wide area, they need to come help Kai Wagner and Nathan Ariel, because you have Mo Farsi on the right side, you have Zawadzki on the left side. If he's the one starting, it doesn't matter for the team of Wilfried Nancy, because he has a lot of players who can bring something and make the difference. And we saw when they came to play at Subaru Park, when he made all those subs, he was the player who got starting lineup and then got switched. Whoever came did the assist and score. So it's really important for the Union to be balanced, defend those wide area, and not leave Kai Wagner and Nathan Ariel to have a 2v1 or even a 3v2. We need some help on the wide area from our midfielder in the diamond.
All right, I love that. Sheanon, for you?
My key to the game is going to be stopping Cucho Hernandez. He's got 16 goals this year, and he's Columbus's danger man up top. He does so much for them in the attack, whether it's coming deep to find the ball and play make, or finding his way into the box. He can score with a header. He can score from outside the box, from long distance. He just is a problem and a matchup nightmare. You're so unsure at times who's supposed to pick him up, and they need to do a good job of making sure that they have somebody in and around him when he enters the box, and also when he goes down deeper to play make, can they get tight to him and make sure that he's not dictating the game for the Columbus Crew.
So I hate to be the person to bring this up, but the last time these two teams met was back in August, twice in the same week. The Union lost both of those games. What happened in those matches that can't happen on Saturday?
I think, and it's for me and Sheanon, our keys are defensive keys. You can see, we know that how good is Columbus, but I would like to have the Union kind of be on the front foot a little bit, because when they score in Columbus and they lead, 1-0 that game, or came back, on a 1-1, with the goal of Gazdag, it was because Ariel was very high, and we, let's say, score out of a mistake of the back of Columbus, who always want to play. So could we, as well, maybe push a bit forward, put some pressure, and give Columbus a different look defensively, not, staying back and waiting for them and try to go counter-attack, but can we press them a little bit and score? I think it could be one of the tactics, for Jim Curtin to maybe, have some chances more often into this game, and not like us, we are responsible with our key being defensively, because we know Columbus is good offensively and they have a lot of weapons who can really hurt the Union, but we need to be on the front foot as well to try to score, because we might need, those 3 points in that game.
So how do you balance that, knowing that you have to be very compact and solid defensively, but knowing you also have to try to take advantage of those opportunities?
You have to play with a sense of urgency, whether that's defensively getting back and getting compact, making sure you have numbers on the ball. And then obviously I think Columbus will have a little bit more of the ball, urgency to get forward and support your attack. I think if they bring that urgency with only 2 games left when they match up against Columbus, I think they can get a result. It's such an important time of the season, and if they can't tell that this is a game that they're going to need that urgency, then they don't deserve to make playoffs. So I look for them to be ready for the game. I think anytime they've been called upon to really step up. They've done a good job of that this year, and we're going to need them to do it a couple more times.
We're coming up on a break for Union Insider, but when we return, we'll talk about one of the most exciting players in MLS that the Union will look to slow down on Saturday in Columbus. We'll be right back after this. Time now for our Chick-fil-A Nugget of the Week. Kai Wagner recorded the 51st assist of his Union career against Atlanta United on Saturday night. With that assist, he passes Sebastian Letou as the club's all-time assist leader. The Union have a tough task on Saturday against an uber-talented Columbus Crew team. After all, Columbus won the 2023 MLS Cup and the 2024 Leagues Cup, mostly with the same core of players. But for all the talent they have, one player in particular will be the Union's focus on Saturday. So we're focusing him right now. That's Cucho Hernandez. He gets the spotlight in this week's player profile presented by Subaru. Cucho was acquired by Columbus as a designated player from Watford FC on June 21st, 2022. Since his arrival, he's been nothing short of dynamite. 41 goals and 27 assists in 67 games played with the Crew, including 16 goals and 13 assists this season. The Colombian native was also the recipient of the 2023 MLS Cup MVP, where he scored a goal in Columbus's 2-1 win over LAFC. So, Sheanon, you touched on him a little bit in your key. Why don't you elaborate a little bit more from a defensive mindset of what makes him so difficult?
41 goals and 27 assists. I think that's pretty much all you have to really say about a player that's just entered the league, already scored an MLS Cup. It seems like he's done everything, and I'm actually more impressed with the assists. Usually when you have a talented striker that's scoring 41 goals, you don't see them that high on the assist table. That is impressive. That shows you that he is involved in all facets of the game, whether it's scoring goals or setting them up.
So what impresses you about Cucho?
I mean, I'm glad he's impressed with the 47 because I got 50 and 50. So
he's coming for you.
No, I mean, he's a forward that, like Sheanon said, I think he's not just a number 9 like a Benteke who stay in the box, finish the chances. We saw him, really drifting around all the field. He can come low, he can go to the left side, to the right side to start, opportunities and action, to get the ball, pass and follow with his movement and his speed and how strong it is. He's not, the tallest guy, but he's very, physical. He's not scared, to win the ball into the box, in the air. And at the end of the day, the way he plays really fit perfectly, the style of Wilfried Nancy, and with, Diego Rossi around him, the Matan, who it can be, the Ramirez, they really combine very well as well. So having him, moving with the ball all the time, it's very hard to mark, very hard to keep, on your side. And it's not just, the Glaznes or the Liot who have to take care of him. It's everybody from the back line and even maybe sometime, our number 6.
So how do you defend a player who's multifaceted like Cucho, where he can assist, he can make opportunities for anyone else, but he's also just lethal on the ball as well? Where's that balance?
You just have to do a really good job of making sure that as soon as he gets the ball that you're sending numbers at him. You're obviously not going to be able to man mark him out of the game. That's something that's not possible in today's game. But you can do a good job in making him get off the ball a little bit quicker, forcing him back into his own midfield so that way he's not able to get forward. But again, it's just so important that people are tuned in and that everybody's on the same page and that it's automatic. Anytime that he pops in the gaps, that somebody's tight to him, forcing him back with the ball, and then hopefully looking to win it from there.
Now to get caught up with some more MLS action from around the league, presented by Torque. The second leg of the Hudson River Derby kicked off on Saturday, and it was seemingly over before it really began. 2 early goals by NYCFC led the charge in a rout to a 5-1 win at their rivals in New York Red Bulls to sweep the season series and move closer to clinching a spot in the playoffs. And in a potential preview of MLS Cup final, the road team traveling east prevailed. Dennis Bouanga scored the goal in the 73rd minute to put LAFC up for good as they go into TQL Stadium and defeat FC Cincinnati by a score of 2-1. When Union Insider returns, Seba and Sheanon will give us their players to watch for Saturday's match as the Union are on the road to face Columbus Crew. We'll finish things up right after this. Here's the answer to this week's Union trivia question presented by United Concordia. Tranquilo Barnetta scored the Union's first goal ever in Orlando on May 25th, 2016, a match that would see the Union draw Orlando City SC 2-2. All right, so final segment here on Union Insider presented by Independence Blue Cross, which means it's time for All-State players to watch. Seba?
Yes, so We don't know what's going to happen on Wednesday, but in my head, I really want the Union to get a result and get a win. So I'm going to go with our goal scorer, Ty Baribo, who didn't score the last game. We don't know if he scored in Orlando, but let's say maybe he didn't. He's going to score against Columbus, and I think with his work rate and his pressing, I think he can really put some difficulty into the back line of Columbus, maybe sneaking and win some balls close to the goal and be able to finish. We know he has been very good when we play away, with a lot of goals for the Union since he started as a starter for the team after Carranza left. I really hope he finds the back of the net against Columbus and add to his count during the season.
All right, and Sheanon, I'm a little afraid to ask, but who's your player to watch?
It is October, it's spooky season. I'm gonna go with Danley Jean-Jacques. I think that we've been waiting to see his kind of coming out party. We've seen it in glimpses. I think in this game against Columbus, that sixth position is gonna be extremely important. In the games that he's played, I've seen him be able to cover a lot of ground, which can be really helpful to a lot of other teammates, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I've seen some attacking qualities as well, so that's promising. Hopefully he can make an impact at the end of the season when the Union are going to need it most.
All right, fingers crossed. That's going to do it for this one. The Union are on the road for their final away game of the season. Wow, that's crazy. As they take on Columbus Crew at Lower.com Field on Saturday. You can watch the game on MLS Season Pass or listen on 97.5 The Fanatic with Dave Leno and Sheanon Williams. For all of us here in studio, I'm Marisa. We'll see you next week.